All right, moments away, we're told, from a White House briefing. Sean Spicer will do the honors. Chip Roy is the former chief of staff to Senator Ted Cruz. Chip, when we see these things, I'm sure you're always worried about distractions and whether now we've got a legitimate distraction that's going to get in the way of that Trump agenda. You think that's a real likelihood now that health care that your old boss is working on, to say nothing of tax cuts, gets pushed back?
Yeah, I think it's a concern. I think that right now what we know is that normal Americans, the people out here in what some people refer to as flyover country, and it's one of the reasons why I'm back home in Austin, Texas, and not in the clown show that appears to be what Washington, D.C. has devolved to, is that we care about getting our health care premiums down. We care about making sure that the costs are reduced in D.C., that our taxes go down, that our lives aren't affected. And right now that agenda seems to be getting stalled in the back and forth of these media wars. And frankly, that's a lot of what we're concerned about, that the media is so focused on the, what the latest tweet is or whatever the latest story is. I mean, yesterday I saw a scroll on one of your competitor networks talking about how many scoops of ice cream the president gets. I mean, it's unbelievable the kind of coverage that's going on.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not making it up. They're talking about that the president gets 2 scoops of ice cream compared to 1 scoop of ice cream. And that's
he gets 2
that's
scoops?
the state of our media. 2 scoops.
All right. Is that our tax dollars behind that? All right, could be Rocky Road. All right, so is it your sense here that Republicans just have not gotten the word out adequately enough? Forget about the Russian, because I don't know where that's going. But on the health care thing, because now it's deemed the failures of that Affordable Care Act are suddenly on them. And that all these failures happening with that, the pulling out of all these exchanges by next year, that was happening whether Republicans intervened or not with their own version of health care. But now they're going to get, the bullet for it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's a real risk. I think that Republicans are missing the opportunity to win the minds and hearts of Americans by talking about free market health care and how important it is to drive down costs. And that's what the American people care about. If you look at polls, polling clearly indicates that if you talk about lower premiums versus, say, pre-existing conditions or other things that a lot of the media and a lot in Washington want to talk about, the American people universally care about getting their premiums down to make them affordable. Under Obamacare, premiums are up $4,500 for a family of 4. Republicans aren't talking about that and talking about access to care, and instead they're playing on the wrong field. Democrats want single-payer health care. We know that. That means they want to go and say everybody gets covered. But they get covered with substandard care. They get covered with waiting lines. They get covered with having to go to other places to get the care you need. Republicans need to get back to talking about what we believe in, which is increasing options, making sure you have access to doctors. And they're missing that opportunity. I think the Freedom Caucus did a good job in trying to get that message back. And they fought to at least get the chance for states to have a waiver to get out from underneath the burdensome Obamacare regulations. Right. But right now, they're not actually getting out and putting out a narrative to your question. They're not winning the minds and hearts of Americans by explaining why this is what's good for the American people. Yeah,
and the town itself, it seems to be unable to get into more than one issue at a time. I want to bring in Sabrina Schaeffer into this, Independent Women's Forum Executive Director. Sabrina, the obvious question is, are you surprised that the president has 2 scoops of ice cream?
Well, I wanted to know what kind of ice cream it was, mint chocolate chip or dark
whether
cherry.
It's our tax dollars doing that. That's what I have to ask Chip. It's curious. A guy named Chip knows exactly about the ice cream thing. But Sabrina, do you get a sense that, Chip's right on this, that the media fixation, all of this is also hurting the president's agenda, and whether you like the president or not, what it means is everything gets delayed?
Yeah, I do worry a little bit that when I look at any of the sort of leading newspapers, every single headline starts with the word Trump. And I think it's a bit of a chicken or an egg in terms of what's driving that. Certainly the media is picking up on some sort of absurdities coming out of the White House, and at the same time, they're not looking for anything else to cover. And I think we do need to get back to talking about tax reform, health reform, a whole slew of economic issues.